Hey folks, welcome to one of the most enthralling, exciting, enlightening and entertaining session of Science Scamper for classes 6 to 8 by EduCatUp. And I am your super science teacher Ambika. At EduCatUp, we always empower all our students as how to think and not what to think. So if you want to experience the same, it's the right time to subscribe to the EduCatUp's YouTube channel. The subscription button is just given below, guys. If you like our video, don't forget to press the like button and ensure to hit the bell icon to get all the latest updates from EduCatUp. Now let's start today's session, and the topic for the day is crop production and management. Yes, something related to the very basic occupation in our country, and that is agriculture. That means how crops are produced, what are the practices which are involved with them, and then how they are stored and managed. So let's see the topics which we are going to cover in this module. Agricultural practices, basic practices of crop production. Then in that we are going to see preparation of soil, adding manures and fertilizers, sowing, irrigation, protection from weeds, harvesting, storage, and then food from animals. So let's start the session. Agricultural practices. First we need to understand that what do we mean by the word crop. Crop means any kind of plant which is grown in a large area. That means same kind of plants are grown together in a large field or in a large area are known as crop. For example, if I am growing wheat in a complete big field, then that crop is wheat. Wheat is the crop. If I am growing rice, then rice is the crop. But it should be the same plant grown in a very big area. When the same kind of plants are grown in a very big area, then they are known as crop. Now crops are basically of two types: Kharif crops and Rabi crops. Now Kharif crops are those crops which are sown in the rainy season. The examples are groundnut, soya bean, cotton. And Rabi crops are those crops which are grown in the winter season. The examples are mustard, linseed, gram, peas, wheat, gehu. Okay. So depending upon the season of sowing, the crops are of two types, that is Kharif crops and Rabi crops. Now let's move ahead. Basic practices of crop production. So there are basically 8 practices of crop production. It starts with the preparation of soil, sowing, that means sowing of the seeds, then adding manures and fertilizers so that the seeds can grow much faster and in a better quality, then irrigation, obviously supplying of water, weeding, harvesting, thrashing and storage. So these 8 practices are basically the basic crop production practices which we are going to study now one by one in detail. So let's start with the preparation of soil. When I say preparation of soil, it is the process by which soil is made much more suitable and nutrient rich for the seeds to grow. That means what all nutrients should be present in the soil, what should be the texture of the soil, and what kind of soil should be there to grow the crop and to get the maximum yield is the preparation of the soil. Now in this, basically there are 2 steps. The first is plugging or tilling. Plugging or tilling the soil, that means loosening the soil and turning it upside and down so that the aeration or the oxygen content in the soil can increase. So that is called plugging and tilling. It can be done with the help of animals like bullocks and with the help of the plow shaft. Then it can be done with the help of the tractor and with the help of hoe or cultivator, depending. Then we have the next process, and which is leveling. That means leveling the soil, making it at one straight level and crushing the lumps if there are any of the soil. That is known as leveling, and it is done with the help of either a wooden leveler or an iron leveler. A wooden leveler can be dragged by the bullocks, and the iron leveler is basically attached with a tractor. So these are the 2 steps in the preparation of soil. Let's move ahead. Now, adding manure and fertilizers. You need to understand what are manure and fertilizers. These are basically the substances which will increase the fertility of the soil. Soil की मिट्टी की उपजाऊता को बढ़ा देते हैं. ठीक है, खाद पदार्थ आप जिन्हें हिंदी में कहते हैं. These are manure and fertilizers. Now, Continuous cultivation of crops, that means in one season you have grown wheat, in the other you have grown gram, then pea, potato, carrot, like means you are growing continuously. So the fertility of the soil starts decreasing because the nutrient content of the soil starts decreasing. So to replenish the soil again, we need to add fertilizers and manures. Now, a manure is an organic substance obtained from the decomposition of dead plants and animals. And fertilizer is a chemical substance which is made by humans in the factories to increase the fertility of the soil. तो ये दोनों के बीच का difference होता है. Manure is a natural substance, fertilizer is a man-made chemical substance. Okay? Now, fertilizers help to get the better yield. यानी कि अगर आप fertilizers डाल रहे हैं तो जो आपके crop की quality होगी वो बहुत अच्छी आएगी, ज़्यादा volume में आएगा, ज़्यादा quantity में आएगा. Manure आपकी soil की fertility को increase करता जाएगा. But excessive use of fertilizers can lead to the harmful effects. बहुत ज़्यादा fertilizers का add करना भी नुकसानदायक है. Why? Because actually they are made up of chemicals. They are not natural. So if they are added in excess, it leads to harmful effects. Now, there is another way of replenishing the fertility of the soil, and that is by crop rotation. That means if in one season you have grown wheat, maybe in the other season you can grow rice. Then maybe in the next season you can again grow wheat. So what happens by changing the crop season to season, the fertility of the soil can be replenished. क्योंकि जो nutrient एक crop को grow करने में चले गए थे, maybe वो nutrients दूसरे को grow करने से वापस आ जाएंगे. ये देखना पड़ता है. The farmer has to see and understand that which crop can replenish the fertility of the soil. And in this way of crop rotation, the fertility of the soil can be maintained. Alright? Now let's move ahead. Sowing. Sowing means to put seeds in the soil. But before sowing, the farmer has to select good quality and high yielding variety of seeds. अब मार्केट में बहुत सारे सीड्स मिलते हैं, उसमें से अच्छी क्वालिटी के कौन से हैं, कौन से सीड्स से ज़्यादा क्रॉप प्रोडक्शन होगा, that has to be chosen by the farmer. And then farmer prefer to take the best seed and then they put them in the soil. Now there is two methods through which seeds are put up in the soil. ऐसा नहीं कि आप गए और आपने you just start throwing them like this. No, that's not the way. The one is the traditional method of sowing in which the ox were used and they have this seed funnel through which they put the seeds in the funnel, and through the pipe it has sharp ends and the seeds are dropped. तो उसमें होता क्या है, वो ऐसे seeds डालते जाते हैं and ox move करता जाता है. तो at a particular distance the seed starts getting down. The other modern method is seed drill, in which you can just put up the seeds and they will drop at a particular distance. You can see, this is an important point to understand. Over here the seed will be dropped. And these are at a particular distance. ऐसा नहीं है कि 1, 2, 3 ऐसे लाइन से डाल दिए बिल्कुल बगल में. No, they are putting them at a proper distance, even in the traditional method, even in the modern method. And why is it so? Because every crop requires sunlight, water, carbon dioxide, nutrients. So if they will be very close to each other, they will start self-competition for sunlight. So they are put up at a certain distance that every seed can get all the things and they all can grow. Alright, so that is how sowing is done. Now let's move ahead. Action-packed info, guys, something very interesting and important for you. Seeds of a few plants such as paddy is dhan, जिसमें से हमें rice मिलता है, are first grown in a nursery. When they grow into seedlings, they are transplanted to the field manually. Some forest plants and flowering plants are also grown in the nursery. So nursery is a place where you get all the essential conditions for growing. So paddy plants are first grown in the nursery, and once seedling condition has come, then they are transplanted into the field. Now let's move ahead. Irrigation. Now irrigation is the process of supplying water to the crops, supplying water to the seedlings, and supplying water is extremely essential. But the time and frequency of supplying water depends upon crop to crop. यानी कि कुछ crops ऐसे होते हैं जिनको आपको दिन में 2 से 3 बार पानी देना होगा, कुछ ऐसे होते हैं जिन्हें सिर्फ 1 ही बार देना होगा. So it depends upon crop to crop that what should be the frequency and time of watering it. In summer, the frequency of watering the crops is obviously high. Then sources of irrigation are like wells, tube wells, ponds, lakes, rivers, streams, canals. जहाँ से भी farmer पानी ले सकते हैं वो लेते हैं, and they provide irrigation to their crops. Let's move ahead. Now, traditional methods of irrigation and modern methods of irrigation. There were 4 traditional methods of irrigation. It was like moat or pulley system, that means taking water out from the well, chain pump, dhekli, and rahat or leveler system. The modern methods of irrigation are basically 2. One is drip irrigation and the next is a sprinkler system. In drip irrigation, exactly what they do, they put up a pipeline near to the crops in the field, and wherever the crop is there is a particular hole in the pipe. So what happens, once you open the main tap, the water starts flowing in the pipe, and from those holes the water is supplied only to the crop, and when you want that it's done, the irrigation is completed, you can switch off the tap and supply of water will be stopped. Sprinkler system is something, there is a kind of a small fountain, a sprinkler which is rotating, and water is coming out and it is supplying water. Alright, now let's move ahead. Protection from weed. Now what is weed? Weed is an unwanted harmful plant which grows by itself with your useful crops. आप कुछ नहीं करते हैं, आपने कुछ नहीं प्रोवाइड किया है, तब भी वो ऑटोमेटिकली उग जाते हैं. They are unwanted and they are harmful. They are known as weed. Now weeding is the practice of removal of the weeds. Weeds को हटाना weeding होता है. Weeding is very necessary because these weeds, ये जो harmful unwanted plants हैं, they start competing with your main crops to get sunlight and nutrition from the soil. अब अगर वो soil से nutrition लेने लगेंगे और sunlight लेने लगेंगे, then how your crops will grow? So they have to be removed and weeding has to be done. Now, the best time for the removal of the weeds is before they produce flowers and seeds. Weeds में flowers या seeds आए, उससे पहले ही उन्हें हटा देना चाहिए. The manual way is to use a खुरपी and take them out. हाथ से पकड़ के ऐसे जंगली घास को निकालते हुए आपने देखा होगा गार्डनर्स को. That is weeding only. Other than that, it can also be done with the help of a seed drill machine to uproot the weeds. Okay, जो अभी हमने देखा था modern method of seed drill, उसमें आप weeding भी कर सकते हैं. So weeds can also be controlled by spraying few chemicals like weedicides, which is 2,4-D. It's a kind of a weedicide which is used, which is sprayed to kill the weeds, and it does not harm your main crops. So this is weeding. Now harvesting. Harvesting means once your crop has grown, now it has to be cut off from the field. So cutting off the crop is known as harvesting. Okay. Now threshing and winnowing are the 2 ways which are used after your harvesting. So in case of threshing, it can be either done manually or with the help of a machine called thresher. What is done? The crop which is cut, harvested crop, उसके bundles बनाए जाते हैं और जोर जोर से उसे ऐसे ज़मीन पे बैंग किया जाता है. तो जो grains होते हैं वो अलग निकलते जाते हैं और बाकी का जो plant का part है वो अलग रह जाता है. This is the manual way. Now we have the machines also which are called threshers, जिसमें आप अपना crop लगाते हैं, grains अलग निकल जाते हैं, chaff अलग रह जाता है. Now there is also a machine which is called combine, the picture of which you can see. Combine is something which can do harvesting, crops को काटने का काम, then threshing, grains अलग करने का काम, and then it also separates the chaff. जो थोड़ा बहुत भूसा रह जाता है वो उसे भी निकाल देता है और पूरा दाना साफ निकल आता है. Winnowing is actually जो grains आपको मिले हैं उसमें से chaff को अलग करने का काम winnowing होता है. That means you take it in a kind of a bamboo basket kind of a thing, hold it and just tilt it a little bit so that what happens because of the wind, जो chaff है वो अलग हल्के बहते जाते हैं और आपके grains नीचे साफ इकट्ठे होते जाते हैं. Now let's move ahead. Action packed info guys, and something very nice to know. Harvest festivals. After 3 or 4 months of hard work, there comes the day of the harvest. That means 3 से 4 महीने किसी भी crop को grow करने में लगते हैं और फिर दिन आता है जिस दिन आप उसकी कटाई कर रहे हैं, आप उसे harvest कर रहे हैं. So the golden fields of standing crop laden with grain fills the hearts of farmers with joy and a sense of well-being. The efforts of the past are now, it's the time to relax and enjoy. So there are many festivals which are celebrated on the harvesting days or in the harvesting season, like Pongal, Baisakhi, Holi, Diwali, Nabnaya and Bihu. In different states at different times these festivals are celebrated. Let's move ahead. Storage. How the crops which you have harvested, threshed, Vinod, now the grains are with you, how they need to be stored so that they can last for long. See, if you are storing them at home, then they have to be stored in proper steel cans which are airtight. You should put the dry neem leaves in that so that the pests and the insects should not spoil it. If you are a farmer and you have a whole lot of field crops, then they are basically stored in silos and granaries. Okay, and you know, a lot of care is taken that no moisture should be enter in them, because moisture होगा तो insects जल्दी develop होंगे, pest attack ना हो, बहुत ध्यान रखा जाता है इन चीज़ों का. So you know, these kind of things, and a whole lot of treatment is given so that they are not spoiled off. Now, food from animals. We get a whole lot of food products from animals, we know that, but we need to know the science of maintaining, rearing and keeping these animals properly, which is known as animal husbandry. Animal husbandry is the science of dealing systematically with rearing, breeding, improvement and care of domesticated animals. Apiculture is the rearing and breeding of honeybees, and pisciculture is the rearing and breeding of fish on a very large scale. So these things have to be kept in mind. With this, we have come to the end of this enlightening session, and I hope that you all have subscribed to the Educatup's YouTube channel. If you haven't done so, children, it's the time to do it. The subscription button is just given below. If you have any doubts, questions, queries and your valuable feedback, you can put it in the comment box below, and your super science teacher Ambika will definitely get back to you. So for me, it's time to sign out for the day. Until the time we meet again, be happy, be safe and keep enriching yourself with Educatup. Bye-bye, children.